She smiled at the guests, and when someone asked who I was, she said I was just a friend. That's when I realized I was already gone.
She adjusted her dress, a small, practiced movement, and smiled brightly at the guests arriving at the reception. When someone she knew glanced my way and asked who I was, she said, "Oh, he's just a friend." The words were so soft, almost a whisper, but they landed like a physical blow, cutting deep. Holding a gift I had spent weeks picking out, something I thought was perfect. In that instant, I felt like I had become invisible, a ghost in a room full of people who mattered to her. The strange thing was, we had arrived together, we shared a home. We had built years of our lives together, filled with quiet understanding and shared plans for the future. Yet, at that simple reception table, our entire history was erased with 2 words. I was demoted, reduced to a label that made everything we were feel like a lie. She didn't even look at me when she said it. It was as if avoiding my eyes would somehow make the words less real, less hurtful. So I smiled. It was a strange reaction even to me. I wasn't smiling because it didn't hurt. It hurt more than I can describe. I was smiling because, for the first time, I felt a sense of clarity. I finally understood exactly where I stood in her world. It wasn't where I thought it was. The rest of the evening passed in a slow-motion haze. She was the life of the party, laughing loudly. I watched from the sidelines, feeling like a spectator at my own life. It was fascinating, in a painful way, to see how easily she could rewrite our shared history whenever it was convenient for her. With every smile she gave away to someone else, every animated conversation that I wasn't a part of, my decision became clearer and clearer. The feeling wasn't anger. It was a quiet, firm resolve building inside me. On the drive home, the silence in the car was thick, but only for me. She was buzzing, talking animatedly about how successful the event was, how important it was to make the right impression on the right people. I just nodded, keeping my eyes fixed on the road ahead. That night, after she fell asleep, breathing softly beside me, I started packing. I moved quietly, deliberately. I only took the things that were truly mine. I didn't rush. I didn't feel angry or vengeful. Instead, I felt a profound sense of calm, a peace I hadn't experienced in years. Before I left, I wrote a short note and left it on the kitchen counter where she'd see it in the morning. It was simple and honest. I wrote that I didn't mind being just a friend, but I refused to be treated like one in what was supposed to be my own life. Then I walked out the door and closed it softly behind me. I went to stay with a good friend, someone who didn't need an explanation. I just needed a quiet space to let the noise in my head settle down. The messages from her started coming almost immediately. At first, they were filled with confused questions. Then they shifted to frustration. Finally, they became apologies, but they felt hollow. More like panic about her own situation than genuine regret for hurting me. I didn't respond. I knew I needed the distance. I needed the silence to remember who I was before. I started shrinking myself to fit into the small space she had allotted for me in her world. A few weeks later, we agreed to meet. We sat at a small coffee shop, the air between us heavy with things unsaid. She told me she didn't mean it that way. She said it was just easier. She didn't have an answer. There was just silence. And in that silence, I had my answer. We separated quietly after that. There were no dramatic scenes, no shouting or accusations. There was just a sad, mutual understanding that the respect in our relationship had vanished long before I had physically left. It was slow work, but it was mine. I consciously chose to put myself in spaces where I was seen, where I was valued, where I didn't have to explain or justify my existence. I started to feel like myself again, the person I was before I had learned to make myself small. Months later, I ran into her at a cafe. She looked surprised to see me. I think she was surprised to see me looking so whole. I was relaxed, smiling, talking with a friend. She walked over and asked how I was doing. I told her the truth. I was doing well, really well. I think in that moment she finally understood what she had so casually thrown away. That night taught me a powerful lesson. Being called just a friend was the catalyst, but the real issue was deeper. If someone can erase you with a single sentence, it means they were never truly protecting you or your relationship in the first place. They were protecting themselves. I walked away from her that first night with my dignity intact. And in the end, that was more than enough. Thank you for listening. If this story resonated with you, I'd love it if you'd subscribe for more.